Welcome to Costa Rica's wild and rugged Pacific coastline, an area called Costa Ballena. I'm Catherine, also known as Kat from my travel Instagram page, and my boyfriend and I have been slowly making our way through parts of Central and South America for the past few months. We spent 2 weeks exploring the towns of Costa Ballena and Costa Rica so that we could share all of the highlights with you. Also, what I share here is just a small piece of the full 10-day itinerary I just released of all the best adventure spots throughout Costa Rica, which you can find at the link in the description of this video, so check it out if you're heading to Costa Rica. Now let's get into it. The Costa Ballena area is located on Costa Rica's western Pacific coast and is made up of 3 towns, Dominical, Uvita, and OJOCHAL. It stretches along a wild coast of beaches and tropical jungle. The town of Dominical is where we decided to call home. It's a small town with less than 1,000 residents and is best known for its surf. The surf is actually considered to be the most consistent in the entire country, if not region, year-round. Due to this, Dominical attracts a large number of surfers, a number of vacationing families, expats, and a small number of backpackers. It's a slow, quiet town where the beach is the main attraction, so don't expect to find raging parties here or even tons of restaurants. After 2 weeks, we had eaten at the same places too many times to count. That being said, make sure you check out PHAT Noodle, Mama TOUCAN, and Cafe Mano Congo. They're each incredible places to eat. Outside of the main beach in Dominical, there are a few others nearby, including the neighboring beach of Dominicalito. My absolute favorite beach was called Playa Hermosa, which is about a 20-minute drive south towards the next town over called Uvita. This huge stretch of beach is gorgeous and is the perfect spot to take in a sunset. We had the opportunity to do a horseback ride on Playa Hermosa using a company called Rancho La Merced, and it was definitely one of the highlights of our trip. If this is on your bucket list, make sure you do it here. It only costs $60 per person for over a 3-hour ride, which took us through the forest and then onto the beach. We even got to run the horses on the beach if you're feeling up for it. Outside of the beautiful beaches, there are tons of waterfalls in this area if you head inland. We spent our weekends exploring 2, the first a very well-known falls only a short 20-minute drive from Dominical called NOUYAYCA Falls. The falls are run by a Costa Rican family, meaning you do have to pay to enter. It costs $10 for you to do the hike yourself, $80 to do it via horseback ride, or $32 to beat the crowds by taking a 4x4 open-air vehicle that drops you off right at the entrance. You can purchase your tickets online at the NOUYAYCA Falls website and redeem them in the ticket office. We opted for the hike, which was about 2 miles each way from the parking lot. It was definitely difficult on the way in since you were hiking uphill almost the entire way. But we did see a ton of animals, including lots of monkeys and this green snake hiding in the woods. Make sure you bring sunscreen and water because it's exposed to the sun and was extremely hot. Once you arrive at the end of the hike, you are greeted with an incredible sight. NOUYAYCA Falls is actually 2 waterfalls. The first is over 140 feet tall, and the second is around 60 feet tall. The lower falls has a pool that you can swim in and even sit underneath the waterfall. It does get very crowded as you can see from this video, so I suggest going as soon as it opens right at 7 or 8 a.m. The second waterfall, called CHONTALES, was more of a journey to get to. It is a little more than an hour's drive on some very bumpy back roads from Dominical. I would not recommend this one unless you have a 4x4 vehicle. We actually saw another car without all-wheel drive get stuck on a hill on the way there. Even with a 4x4, this is an adventurous journey. There were a few bridge crossings that were so tight we had to pull our mirrors in to get across. But it's well worth the journey. The CHONTALES waterfall costs 3,000 colones, or around $5 to enter at the office, and is a short 700-meter walk to an overlook platform, and then another few hundred meters down the stairs to get to the main pool. This waterfall is way less populated than NOUYAYCA, and I actually liked it a lot better. I still recommend getting there early. We arrived right when it opened at 8:30 a.m. and had the place to ourselves for at least half an hour. The falls drop almost 200 feet into a clear pool below where you can swim. Downstream from this bigger pool is a shallow river with several soaking pools you can sit in. Even further down is an area where you can choose to do a 25-foot jump from a canyon into the river. Just note that you do have to have permission and be shown the correct spot to jump from the guides that work for the waterfall company. There's also a small restaurant you can grab lunch from when it's all said and done. This was definitely one of the highlights of our stays in Dominical, and I highly suggest it if you are up for the tedious and very adventurous journey to get there. And that wraps up the highlights of our time in Dominical, but before I end this video, I want to highlight a few things to remember when planning your trip to Dominical in Costa Rica. The first is rainy season versus dry season. Make sure you plan your trip according to what kind of weather you are okay with. Dry season runs from around December through April before rainy season starts in May. During dry season, you can expect great sunny weather, but it's also peak tourist season when the prices are very high, especially on rental cars. Rainy season means more deals since it's off-season for tourism, but you do have to put up with frequent rain showers, although in my experience, it's usually only an hour or two of rain a day. Car rentals. I would suggest renting a car as the best way to get around Costa Rica. The roads are very well maintained in most areas and driving is relatively straightforward in my experience. Just be wary of any rental car scams and make sure you have cash for the toll roads. Prices. Costa Rica is known to be relatively expensive when compared to its neighboring countries in Central America, so I would not consider this a budget travel destination. Prices in restaurants are similar to that of a cheap US city, but nowhere near as cheap as you'll see in other countries such as Mexico and Guatemala. And that's a wrap. If you're planning your trip to Costa Rica and you want to know where else you should go, don't miss my full itinerary at the link in the description. It includes a full 10-day road trip to some of the best adventure spots in the entire country. The areas I highlight here are only a tiny piece of what you can expect to be included in the entire adventure itinerary, which once again can be found in the description.